15 Golden Age actors who died in rags. How does the girl who skipped down the yellow brick road die, owing $4 million she can't repay? Judy Garland's crushing debt bookends our countdown of 15 Golden Age legends, whose red carpet glory ended in red ink disaster, starting with her tragic finale and working backward through ruined matinee idols, bankrupt comedians and singers buried without headstones. We'll expose how Hollywood's spotlight can turn into a foreclosure notice overnight. Stay tuned, because if Tinseltown could bleed its brightest star dry, what chance does anyone else have? Number 15, May Wong, the first Asian American screen siren, the studio system erased. In 1922, a 17-year-old laundryman's daughter stepped onto a Technicolor set and changed film history overnight. May Wong, equal parts rebel and style icon, became the era's exotic dragon lady, a label Hollywood adored and she secretly despised. Her razor-thin brows ended up in Vogue sketches, and European tabloids hailed her as the world's best-dressed woman. Yet, whenever she landed a starring role, US censors snarled, interracial romance on screen was forbidden. If the lead actor was white, Wong had to flirt and fade. Never kiss, never marry, never win. Frustrated, she fled to Berlin jazz clubs and London stages where no one lectured her about race quotas. But returning home meant ever smaller parts, while studios cashed in on blonde ingenues. By the 1950s, she was renting half her Santa Monica duplex to make ends meet and managing the building herself. Health problems followed hard on the heels of a lifelong drinking habit. And on a gray February morning in 1961, May Wong died of a heart attack at 56, alone, her once lavish wardrobe auctioned to pay bills. Hollywood's prejudice stripped Wong of everything. Across the country, another barrier-breaking woman faced an even starker fate, Bessie Smith, whose grave sat unmarked for 33 years. Number 14, Bessie Smith, the Empress of the Blues left with no headstone. Roaring 20s. America couldn't press Bessie Smith's records fast enough. Downhearted blues poured out of Victrolas from Harlem to Houston, making her the highest-paid black entertainer of her day. But when the Great Depression crushed record sales, tent shows replaced theater tours, and the Empress found herself performing under electric bulbs strung across dusty fields. Every paycheck vanished into debts, bailouts for needy relatives, or bottles of bootleg gin. On a lonely Mississippi highway in 1937, a truck sideswiped the Packard, carrying Bessie and her lover. She bled out before reaching hospital care that segregation kept miles away. 7,000 mourners jammed her funeral, yet her husband pocketed donations meant for a gravestone. For 3 decades, the most powerful voice in blues history lay beneath bare earth, until Janis Joplin finally funded a marker in 1970. Bessie Smith's voice once filled concert halls, yet she was buried without a stone. A few decades later, the man who made the entire nation laugh was left pleading with fans for spare change. Number 13, Bud Abbott, one half of Who's on First and Penniless by Last. Who's on First still explodes on TikTok feeds, but the man who masterminded that wordplay died counting pennies. During World War II, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello sold $85 million in war bonds, yet the IRS disallowed their write-offs, slapping them with a $500,000 lien. Costello's 1959 death left Abbott adrift, and epileptic seizures made touring torture. Tax penalties ballooned. His Woodland Hills home was seized. In broken-voiced TV interviews, he pleaded with fans to send anything they could spare. By April 1974, Bud Abbott was cremated on borrowed money, his ashes held until friends pooled funds for storage fees. When Abbott lost, even the house that made Who's on First famous, Hollywood's merry prince of excess, was burning through fortunes on the high seas. Number 12, Errol Flynn, Robin Hood's final heist, his own bank account. Legend says Errol Flynn could sword fight, sail a schooner, and charm royalty before breakfast. Studio ledgers confirmed the legend. Millions flowed in. He bought yachts, Caribbean isles, mink coats for girlfriends, and champagne for entourage members he met 5 minutes earlier. Then came a 1943 statutory rape trial. Acquitted, but legal fees gutted his finances. 2 divorces cost another fortune. A failed film company in Jamaica bled him dry. By 50, alcoholism etched canyon lines into his once chiseled face. In 1959, Flynn collapsed in a Vancouver apartment while negotiating the sale of his beloved yacht. He needed cash for back taxes. The probate judge counted assets totaling roughly $10,000, barely enough for funeral arrangements. The boy who'd planted arrows in Sherwood Forest was lowered into a crypt, still owing money. Flynn's charisma couldn't win back the millions he squandered. Meanwhile, a stone-faced, silent clown watched his own fortune crumble. Number 11. Buster Keaton. Buster Keaton defied gravity long before computer rigs, running on locomotive roofs, dodging collapsing houses, and capturing it all with a blank stare that triggered roars of laughter. But in 1928, he signed away creative control to MGM. Studio directors clipped his wings, salaries plummeted after the market crash, and a ruinous 1932 divorce sliced what remained in half. With theaters empty during the Depression, Keaton pawned mementos for rent and drowned regrets in Prohibition-era moonshine. Television's 1950s nostalgia boom hauled him back for cameos, yet residual checks barely covered medical bills. When lung cancer claimed him in 1966, reporters noted he'd been living comfortably, but comfort meant a modest ranch house and savings too thin for Hollywood memorial spectacle. His genius left indelible footprints on cinema. His bank account left barely a smudge. Keaton's era-defining stunts no longer paid the bills. Not long after, Hollywood's noir goddess found herself mixing drinks under an assumed name. Number 10. Veronica Lake, peekaboo blonde to bankrupt waitress. She lowered one shimmering curl over her right eye, and the world gasped. Veronica Lake's hairstyle launched 1,000 salon requests. Behind that silky curtain, however, lurked paranoia, alcoholism, and fractured marriages. In 1951, the IRS padlocked her Beverly Hills door over unpaid taxes, and she filed bankruptcy the same year. Reinventing herself under a pseudonym, Lake slung drinks at a Manhattan bar, telling bashful customers, "Yes, I used to be her." A flurry of low-budget horror flicks couldn't stem medical costs. Hepatitis ravaged her body. She died in a Vermont hospital room in 1973, clutching a tiny notebook of unpaid bills. The goddess who once dripped diamonds in Paramount publicity stills left almost nothing but faded press clippings. Lake's glamour faded into bar-room shadows. Her downfall mirrored, yet could not match, the brutal spiral of a 1950s starlet. Number 9. Barbara Payton, the fallen starlet who traded screenplays for Skid Row. Barbara Payton exploded onto screens opposite James Cagney in Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye. Her raw allure promised stardom, but her private life became a tabloid demolition derby. Engaged to matinee idol Franchot Tone, she simultaneously romanced bad boy actor Tom Neal. Their front yard fistfight left Tone hospitalized, Payton vilified, and casting directors fleeing. Drinking binges led to arrests for passing bad checks and public intoxication. By 1955, the offers had dried up. She was working cheap monster flicks like Bride of the Gorilla just to stay fed. Soon even that disappeared. Payton drifted along Sunset Boulevard, prostituting herself for single-digit bills, telling reporters she earned $10 a trick and 4 bottles of booze a day. In 1967, bloated by cirrhosis and malnutrition, she moved back into her parents' dingy San Diego apartment. On May 8th, she collapsed on the couch and never woke, dead at 39, with $0 in her bank account. The Screen Actors Guild quietly paid for cremation. No Hollywood friends attended. Payton's flameout was savage, but decades earlier, a $1 million clown had already shown how scandal can bankrupt a legend. Number 8. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle, a $1 million clown destroyed by one party. In 1920, Paramount crowned Roscoe Arbuckle the first actor to earn $1 million a year. 13 months later, a Labor Day hotel suite, bathtub schnapps, and a dying actress hurled him into tabloid hell. 3 trials, drained $700,000 in legal fees. Though acquitted, he became radioactive. Film boards banned his work. Theaters ripped his posters off walls. He spent the next decade ghost-directing 2-reelers under the alias William Goodrich, earning wages smaller than a set carpenter's. The night before signing a long-awaited comeback contract, Arbuckle laughed, toasted friends, and dropped dead of a heart attack. His widow found debts, not royalties, in the dresser drawers. The clown who had once bounced off banquet tables to delight presidents died owing more than he owned. Arbuckle's downfall left Hollywood reeling. One of his closest colleagues, a comedic queen of the silent era, would soon endure a heartbreakingly parallel fate. Number 7. Mabel Normand, a silent era dynamo, silenced by scandal and sickness. Long before talking pictures, Mabel Normand was Hollywood's mischievous heartbeat, writing, directing, and clowning beside Charlie Chaplin, while crowds howled with laughter. But in 1922, her name became tangled in the still unsolved murder of director William Desmond Taylor. Though never charged, she was branded the woman who knew too much, and studios froze her out. The stress sent her retreating to morphine cures and bootleg whiskey. Tuberculosis soon ravaged her lungs, swallowing medical fees faster than royalties arrived. By 1929, she had pawned jewelry to pay sanitarium costs. Friends recalled her scribbling IOUs in the margins of fan letters. On February 23, 1930, at just 37, Mabel exhaled for the last time in a Monrovia sanitarium bed, her estate whittled to keepsakes and a few bonds earmarked for funeral costs. Hollywood's brightest comedian was buried under a modest stone far from the studio gates she once ruled. Normand's collapse marked the silent era's cruelest twist. 40 years later, another groundbreaking performer would feel the same doors slam shut. Number 6. Dorothy Dandridge, glass ceiling, glass wallet. When Dorothy Dandridge twirled across the stage in Carmen Jones, audiences swore they'd witnessed cinema's future. She became the first black woman nominated for Best Actress. Hollywood's reply? Limited offers, token exotica roles, and closed studio doors. Desperate for income, Dandridge financed nightclubs that folded and trusted managers who siphoned cash. In 1963, she filed bankruptcy. The IRS swooped in like vultures. On September 8, 1965, she swallowed antidepressants in a West Hollywood apartment lit by a single bare bulb. Police found exactly $2.14 in her bank account, less than a bus ticket back to the spotlight. Dorothy's bronze Oscar statuette remains a museum treasure. Her final ledger reads near zero. Dandridge shattered Oscar ceilings, yet died counting pennies. Across the Atlantic, a beloved British comedian was selling off everything, including his home, to stay alive. Number 5. Terry Thomas, the dapper cad crushed by Parkinson's and poverty. With a gap-toothed grin and a drawled old boy, Terry Thomas became Britain's comic shorthand for cheerful caddishness in hits like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World and Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines. Fortune followed fame. He adored vintage cars, fine wine, and a sprawling house in Ibiza. Then, in 1971, the diagnosis, Parkinson's disease. Treatment in Switzerland cost £75,000 a year, over $100,000 at the time. Insurance balked. Terry Thomas sold his Chelsea flat, auctioned memorabilia, and finally let go of the Ibiza dream home. By the late 1980s, he and his wife were renting a tiny London apartment, furniture threadbare, savings vaporized by medical bills. Friends rallied. In 1989, comedians held a gala that raised enough to move him into an actor's retirement home. He spent his final year there, still joking but unable to button a cuff without help. On January 8, 1990, he passed away with scarcely more than the benefit fund in his name. Proof that charm and elegance can be drowned by hospital invoices. Terry Thomas's medical bills stripped the varnish from his dapper facade. Back in Las Vegas, another smiling showman was battling both illness and the IRS. Number 4. Sammy Davis Jr., the Candyman's $7 million sugar crash. Sammy Davis Jr. learned to tap dance on Harlem sidewalks, croon on Vegas stages, and charm presidents, but not to say no to spending. He bought gold cigarette lighters by the dozen, dropped chips like confetti on casino felt, and signed tax returns he never read. By 1990, throat cancer silenced his trumpet-smooth voice, but the IRS still demanded $7 million. Friends begged him to rest. Sammy hit the road instead, singing through pain to chip at the interest pile. When he died that May, estate appraisers added up cars, watches, and royalties, roughly $4 million, every last cent pledged to debts. His widow auctioned memorabilia. Hollywood stars held a benefit concert so she could keep the lights on. The Candyman sparkle was swallowed by IOUs. Horror's greatest vampire bled out next. Number 3. Bela Lugosi, Dracula's Curse, forever in debt to the night. Bela Lugosi's 1931 Dracula defined the vampire myth for a century, but those arch eyebrow shadows trapped him in typecast coffin lids. Studios offered peanuts for predictable scares. Real art went to Boris Karloff or younger faces. Shooting marathon hours in stiff capes, Lugosi developed sciatica. Doctors prescribed morphine, then methadone. Addiction shredded budgets. In 1955, he filed bankruptcy, listing assets, costume capes, and walking stick. A year later, he died of a heart attack wearing his favorite Dracula cloak, pockets containing $1,900 cash and a pawn stub. Frank Sinatra quietly paid funeral expenses. Newspapers mourned the king of vampires. Creditors simply crossed off another open account. Lugosi may have defined immortality on screen, but he died nearly penniless. The child star, who once earned tens of millions, would fare little better. Number 2. Mickey Rooney, box office king, $218K. Between 1939 and 1941, Mickey Rooney topped box office lists, made Andy Hardy a household name, and banked salaries equal to studio heads. He bought polo ponies, 9 cars, and charm bracelets for 8 wives. Then came military service, aging out of teen roles, and a 1962 bankruptcy. By the time he hit 90, a stepson was controlling his bank account, siphoning pensions to pay personal shopping sprees. Rooney testified before Congress about elder abuse. His voice cracked, but he vowed to fight. On April 6, 2014, the pint-sized superstar died at 93, with an estate valued at $18,000. Hollywood funded the funeral. A public memorial passed the hat for expenses. The boy who once outranked Clark Gable on fan club charts left coins, not millions. Rooney's 8-decade career dwindled to lunch money. And at the end of our road waits Judy Garland, with a balance sheet as bruised as her ruby slippers. Number 1. Judy Garland, Dorothy's ruby red debt, $4 million. Somewhere over the rainbow, a Kansas farm girl dreamed of Technicolor skies, but MGM's factory demanded more than dreams. Studio doctors fed young Judy Garland pep pills by morning and sleeping tablets by night to sculpt the perfect performer. She worked 18-hour days, balancing film shoots and radio gigs, while executives withheld pay to protect her from spending. Multiple breakdowns followed. Pills became medicine, then chains. Marriages offered brief refuge before snowballing into custody fights and alimony judgments. Third husband, Sid Luft, gambled away concert profits. Unpaid taxes piled up. Garland refused to declare bankruptcy. "I'll sing my way clear," she swore. And she did, belting torch songs in smoky cabarets for modest guarantees. London, June 1969. A rented Chelsea Mews house, a final bottle of sleeping tablets, and the singer collapsed behind a locked bathroom door. She was 47. Auditors tallied assets at $40,000 against roughly $4 million in debts. Bankers froze children's trust funds. Fans mailed spare change to help bury Dorothy. Her ruby slippers glitter in museums. Her ledger closes in deep crimson ink. Fame looks permanent from a theater seat. Spotlights blaze, crowds roar, and a name on the marquee feels immortal. Yet every life in this countdown proves the spotlight is rented, not owned. A courtroom rumor, a crooked manager, a bottle of comfort, or a single tax audit can snap the fragile thread between stardom and survival. If May Wong could break barriers only to die in a quiet apartment, if Bessie Smith's thunderous voice could echo across America, yet leave her lying beneath bare soil, and if Judy Garland could melt hearts worldwide, yet owe millions to bankers who never sang a note, then the road from red carpet to red ink is shorter than any of us dare admit. So, the next time the opening titles roll and the orchestra swells, remember the hidden footnotes beneath the glamour. Success can be dazzling but heartbreakingly brief. Talent can conquer screens, yet fail to conquer ledgers. And the truest measure of a legend may not be the coins they carried home, but the echoes that still ripple long after the bank accounts run dry. Because in Hollywood, then and now, stardust burns bright, but it never pays the bills. If you've made it this far, you already know the price of fame is never printed on the ticket.